Good morning. As we remember those that we have lost, honor those who have survived, and continue the fight for victims' rights and justice, we welcome you to the Orange County Victims' Rights Ceremony. At this time, I'd ask you to please rise as I invite Mr. Petey Levy, the Executive Director of the Anti-Defamation League of Orange County, Long Beach, to welcome us with a prayer and a moment of silence.
Good morning. I'm Rabbi Peter Levy. It's my honor to be here with all of you this morning. I work for the Anti-Defamation League, ADL, a century-old anti-hate organization. How do we fight hate? By upholding the institutions of democracy and for the rights and civil rights of every individual. We're committed to helping enhance the trust between police departments and law enforcement and our communities that they serve in collaboration with all law enforcement, with civil rights groups, and with local communities. Why do we do this as the Jewish people? Well, we fight it out of our own story. And we're all here today with our own stories. But the Jewish people know what it's like to be beat up, persecuted, oppressed, silenced, neglected, made invisible by the communities we live in. But we hold on to the words of the prophet Isaiah. Learn to do good, devote yourself to justice, aid the wronged, uphold the rights of the orphan, defend the cause of the widow. And that's who we are. It's what we do as a Jewish people. You know, in ancient times, the Jewish people in our courts did not have trained lawyers arguing cases. Rather, the prosecutor was the victim themselves, or if they were killed, their immediate relatives. Those who were targeted, the victims, were integral to the process. They were up front and center, because that's the way we fight for justice. Now, I'm not here to talk about history. The Jewish people really don't have history. We have memory. We have a memory that goes back thousands of years. While history is academic, memory motivates us to do something, to move forward. So I invite us all to take a moment of silence now, because there's a story why we're here. There's a memory that's going to move us to do the work that needs to be done. Ken Yehi Ratzon Lefenecha Adonai Tzuri V'Goali. May the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi Levy. Please remain standing as I invite Chief Paul Walters of the Orange County District Attorney's Bureau of Investigations as he calls the Orange County District Attorney's Honor Guard to attention and leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Reverend Moon of the Irvine Onuri Church will sing the national anthem after the presentation of the colors. Chief Walters.
Good morning. It's a pleasure and honor to be here with you today. The Orange County District Attorney's Honor Guard will present the colors. Honor Guard, present colors. If you could all please place your hand over your heart and repeat after me as we say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bomb's bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does the star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you. You may be seated. Before we begin this morning, I would like to thank our co-sponsors, benefactors, and the volunteers who helped underwrite and support this event today, making it possible. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the Orange County Sheriff's Department and the Santa Ana Police Department for their time and support in coordinating this event. I'd also like to thank the Association of Orange County Deputy District Attorneys Civic Action Committee, the Orange County District Attorneys Investigators Association, the Orange County Board of Supervisors, the Orange County CEO's Office, and Waymakers for their generous donations. Sincerely, thank you. I'd also like to acknowledge the elected officials and dignitaries who have joined us today and joined us each and every day in empowering victims and continuing the fight for victims' rights. We have the pleasure and privilege of having with us today the Orange County Board of Supervisors Chairman Don Wagner, Orange County Sheriff's Coroner Don Barnes, Orange County District Attorney Todd Spitzer, Orange County Probation Chief Daniel Hernandez, and former State Assembly Member Stephen Choi, and from the Office of Independent Review, Mr. Robert Fagan. Thank you all for being here. Also with us today, the City of Cypress Mayor Ann Hertz-Malari, Cypress City Councilwoman Bonnie Pete, Fullerton Mayor Fred Young, Laguna Hills Mayor Janine Heft, Laguna Niguel City Councilwoman Stephanie Otto, La Palma City Councilwoman Janet Keogh Conklin, Newport Beach City Councilwoman Robin Grant, Newport Beach City Councilman Will O'Neill, Newport Beach City Councilman Joe Stapleton. From the City of San Clemente, Mayor Chris Duncan, San Clemente City Councilman Gene James. From the City of Santa Ana, Mayor Valeria Mescua. From the City of Santa Ana, also Councilman David Penaloza. Thank you. Also, we're privileged to welcome here Susan Grace, the Chief of the Victims Witness and Prosecution Unit for the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services, and our own Victim Rights Liaison, Ms. Lydia Kim. Thank you all for being here today and joining us. In Orange County, 46 law enforcement partners work hard every single day to bring justice to crime victims. They do it with compassion for the victims, compassion for their families. From first responders in those initial moments of need and crisis, through the support that's given over the course of investigations and prosecutions, to the endless commitment that continues long after conviction, our law enforcement partners serve our community with dedication, compassion, and self-sacrifice. I'm proud to say that we have many men and women of law enforcement here today, and I'd like to acknowledge a few. Joining us today from the City of Brea, Brea Police Department Chief Adam Hawley, Chief State, California State Fullerton Police Department Chief Anthony Frisbee, Cypress Police Department Chief Mark Lauterbach, From the Federal Bureau of Investigations, Assistant Special Agent in Charge, Raj Mann. Fountain Valley Police Department Chief, Matthew Shepard. Florida Police Department Chief, Robert Dunn. From the City of Huntington Beach, Police Department Chief, Eric Parra. Irvine Police Department Assistant Chief, Noel Smiley. Los Alamitos Police Department Chief, Michael Claborn. Newport Beach Police Department Chief, Joe Cartwright. From the Orange County District Attorney's Office, Bureau of Investigations, Chief Paul Walters. Placentia Police Department Chief, Brad Butts. Seal Beach Police Department Chief, Michael Henderson. From the United States Attorney's Office, Assistant United States Attorney Benjamin Barron for the United States Attorney's Office of the Central District of California. From the Westminster Police Department, Deputy Chief Cameron Nauer-Hayes. Westminster Police Department Deputy Chief Darren Upstill. We're also very fortunate to have with us representatives from the Anaheim Police Department, the Buena Police Department, Fountain Valley Police Department, Fullerton Police Department, Garden Grove, La Habra, Laguna, and Orange Police Departments. Thank you all for being here. We're also very honored to have many victims groups with us today, and the victims that they serve. They play a vital role in supporting victims and advocating for reform. And of course, we're also honored to have with us many past keynote speakers who have shared their stories with us, who have opened their hearts to us, and we're honored to have their continued support. Thank you. At this time, I would like to invite Orange County Board of Supervisors Chairman Don Wagner to the stage to share a few words with us. Chairman Wagner.
That's a long walk. You're very kind to fill up the time. Thank you all for the opportunity to be here. Thank you to DA Spitzer and Sheriff Barnes. This is an important week. I bring greetings on behalf of all of my colleagues. There is a county business event that they are at today, but I do share with them these words of appreciation to everyone out in the audience for helping us keep this focus on victims and victims' rights. Briefly, maybe I'll depart a little bit from the script, so buckle up, but Rabbi Levy inspired some thoughts about the issue of justice and the punishment, the appropriate punishment of criminals and the appropriate respect for victims. Because out of the faith tradition from which he is drawn and which most of America is drawn, there is the concept first articulated in the Torah of an eye for an eye. Some will gasp, some will say that's an invitation to barbarism. But it is not meant literally. It is not meant that we go around gouging out eyes. It is meant metaphorically. It is meant that punishment for crimes must be proportional, but must in fact be meted out. The eye of a rich man, the eye of a prominent person in the community is no more important than the eye of the least among us. And when we do not dispense punishment, when that punishment is disproportionate, as we're seeing throughout the state of California now, we do a disservice to the cause of justice. We do a disservice to the historical tradition upon which this nation was founded. And most immediately and most terribly, we do a disservice to the victims. It is recognition of those victims that this week is dedicated to, and that I, on behalf of all of my colleagues, want to express our appreciation. And I have a very small but heartfelt token of appreciation from all of my colleagues, signed by all 5 of us. I will not read it all. Just the last resolution. The Orange County Board of Supervisors does hereby recognize April 23 to April 29 as Crime Victims' Rights Week. By attending the annual Crime Victims Ceremony, Orange County residents support crime survivors through strength in numbers. We encourage all to develop awareness, empathy, and recognition so our community can be a light that shines for people in their darkest hours, helping those in conflict feel safe again. We as a county want to promote peace and will not tolerate heinous, violent crimes in our community. We need to bring back fair, equitable criminal justice so that we can all collectively support our victims. Thank you all. It's in the way. Let's go.
Thank you, Chairman Wagner. It's now my honor to introduce Patricia Winskunis, the founder and CEO of Crime Survivors. Over the last 20 years, Patricia has channeled her experience of victimization into one of survival. Crime Survivors has been fighting to have the voices of victims heard. As the statewide co-chair of Marsy's Law, Patricia was one of the first proponents of California's Victims' Bill of Rights. For nearly 2 decades, Crime Survivors has stood next to the survivors of crime and their loved ones, providing them with love, support, and hope on their own road to survival. Please welcome Patricia.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. This is National Crime Victims' Rights Week, which the theme is Survivor Voices. Elevate, engage, affect change, which I feel should be 365 days out of the year. More crime, more homelessness, more drugs in 2023 than we've ever seen before. This is not supposed to be a time to be political, but Marsy's Law is not working. Justice is not working. We do not have a balanced scales of justice, and we need to be a voice for the voiceless with compassion, respect, and dignity. Crime survivors do want harsher punishment. Every victim and survivor that I speak to, they want justice. They want incarceration. We do believe in rehabilitation, with the exception of 2 intentional murder and molestation of a child. But we do believe in rehabilitation for all, but we do have to have justice as well. 20 years, let me be honest, and maybe that's the problem, I'm sometimes way too honest. Through the years, I was told not to be so outspoken, and now told I am not outspoken enough. Years back, I was looked at as a crazy lady talking about AB 109, Prop 47, Prop 57, and told with never happened, where was I getting my information from, that those would never happen within our communities. And now they are a reality in our communities. I was told not to call out elected officials for wrongs, or that I should call out some and stop being afraid. I was told I needed to hold press conferences, not hold for some, but for some for others. Or if I did for some and not others, I was not in this for the right reasons. I was told so many things and thrown under the bus so many times these past 20 years, but I am only one person, and it has never been and will never, ever be about me. I ask, where else? We need you on our team. I ask you to join me. Some say they want to, but just can't publicly. The calls I get are draining in themselves. So many are changing their missions and structures to follow the money. As I was recently told, there is no money or glory in helping victims of crime, which leaves me a little bit speechless because that's absurd. I know nothing about nothing, but I am someone that was victimized and traumatized, and I decided to try my best, just a girl trying to survive and answer a life calling to help others. We do not have to like each other to be at the table, but together we are better and stronger. It is about victims, survivors, families, and public safety. None of us are individually that important, no matter what our title is. I am just a girl, and after today, I pray you invite me to your table, and you are also all invited to my table for the cause, for the movement, and to balance the scales of justice. Let me read these. Let them sit with you and join me to do something and get involved. Our legislature is out of control, if you haven't noticed already. They are not supporting victims and survivors or families or law enforcement and public safety, and we need your help. SB 331, Peaky's Law, keeping children safe from family violence. SB 331, known as Peaky's Law, is named after a 5-year-old boy who was murdered by his father on April 21st, 2017. Peaky's mother, Anna, fought hard in family court to protect her child from her abusive husband and father of Peaky. Despite her efforts, the family court refused to implement supervised visitation, which led to her son's tragic death. Child homicide is a crisis in our country. Children are being murdered by an abusive parent at alarming rates. According to the Center for Judicial Excellence, since 2008, there have been over 900 reported cases of children being murdered by a divorcing or separating parent in the United States. 20 years they want to be able to have max sentencing for murderers. They want resentencing laws. They want to take away the rights for law enforcement to do searches, which is, again, absurd. No guns for convicted criminals. Under California law, many convicted criminals who receive diversion on mental health and other grounds can continue to hold a gun license. Protect against hate crimes. Hate crimes are on the rise throughout our communities. Prosecutors need tools such as search warrants to compile evidence of the perpetrator's motivation. Protect rights of victims and their families. For families who have lost a loved one to murder, the last thing they should have to worry about is receiving proper notice when the perpetrator is up for parole. These families who have paid the ultimate sacrifice for crime should be heard when they choose to testify at the murderer's parole hearing. Yet California state prison officials have illegally cut the amount of notice that families receive for such parole hearings in half. Close the school threat loophole. We've all seen too much school violence, but under a loophole in California law, people who make threats on social media directed at school as a whole, as opposed to specific individual, cannot be prosecuted. Tackle the fentanyl crisis. The fentanyl epidemic is devastating communities throughout California. This deadly drug is now responsible for 1 in 5 deaths in our state. To stop the crisis, we need tougher penalties for drug dealers when they sell large quantities of the drug or use firearms in the commission of fentanyl-related crimes. Prosecutors need the tools to charge drug dealers with murder when their sales result in overdose deaths. There is an update, a critical hearing this coming Thursday on fentanyl legislation. Make your voice heard. After initially blocking all legislation aimed at stopping the fentanyl epidemic, a powerful committee chair has finally agreed to hear several important bills. Your voice is making a difference, but we need your help now more than ever. Reject legalizing psychedelic drugs. They're continuing to push the reckless legalization of dangerous drugs that should only be administered by medical professionals. Support medical research wherever the science leads. But the wholesale legalization of dangerous drugs is not science, it's dangerous politics. No zero bail for violent criminals. Dan Tibbetts' sister was brutally murdered by a criminal out of jail on zero bail. One recent study showed that criminals released on zero bail had twice the rate of felony rearrest and 3 times the rate of violent crime rearrests. Yet some Sacramento politicians continue to push reckless zero bail policies that voters have already rejected. Zero bail for violent criminals endangers our communities. No early release for violent criminals. In 2016, Sacramento politicians misled voters into approving early prison release for violent criminals. The result has been devastating for our communities. Just this January, a violent criminal out of jail because of these reckless policies murdered a 24-year-old police officer in cold blood. This senseless killing is just the latest example of why the legislature must act now to keep California safe. Now they're considering a bill that would require anyone who is arrested to be released within 48 hours if they haven't been charged, even if the court is closed for a weekend or holiday. Don't let politicians throw open the jailhouse doors. These are only a few listed that I'm speaking of today. Get involved, join the Golden State communities, and let your voice be heard to support victims and survivors and families and law enforcement. Agree to disagree with respect, but today I am using my voice, and it does matter. We need hope for survivors, and we need to balance the scales of justice. We have gone too far, but we cannot give up. We need to come together for all victims of all types of crimes. We are better and stronger together, and we need to provide hope and healing. Ronald Reagan stated this back in the day in his time, and I feel that it's fitting for today. For too long, the victims of crime have been the forgotten persons of our criminal justice system. There are no easy answers, but there are simple answers. We must have the courage to do what we know is morally right. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. It's now my honor to introduce Renetta Johnson of Waymakers. Waymakers provides advocates to the victims in our cases, helping them to navigate the court process and ensuring that their voices are heard in the courtroom. Please help me welcome Ms. Renetta Johnson.
Thank you so much. It's great to be with you today. First, we have a great honor today because we have Susan Grace here, who is chief of the Victim Witness Programs, which helps to support and fund victim services throughout the state of California. And so, Susan?
Thank you, Renetta. It is my honor to be here with you today to honor the victims of crime and to really support victims' rights here in Orange County. My office is dedicated to supporting victims through grant funding, and we fund all 58 counties, and we know that Orange County is a top county and great stewards of this grant funding. I just want to give a heartfelt thank you to Waymakers, to the District Attorney's Office here in Orange County, and to all law enforcement for all that you do. We know the work is challenging. We know it's a lot, and it's so important, and we are dedicated to supporting you. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, as they said, I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Waymakers. And I've had the honor of being with Waymakers for 27 years, and more than 2/3 of that time was spent directly working in the victim assistance programs. This year, we are celebrating because this is the 50th anniversary of Waymakers, which is an amazing feat when you consider that we started as a pilot project between a UCI professor and a captain from Costa Mesa Police Department. They wanted a cooperative venture to address youthful offenders with the intention of redirecting the youth and prevention of more serious criminal activity. Waymakers was born out of that collaboration, and our work has always involved response to and prevention of crime. In 1978, Orange County made an unusual decision to establish a collaborative approach to crime victim services with our agency as the primary service provider. This is an approach that has truly allowed the establishment of a model that focuses on victims. As you can imagine, victim services have changed significantly over the past 5 decades. A program that started with a couple of volunteers at a single justice center now provides services through Waymakers Victim Advocates that are located throughout the county, in every court center, many police departments, the Orange County Family Justice Center, and of course, the District Attorney's Office. Our goal has always been to enhance quality of services, and so over the years, we've created specialized units to meet the needs of the victims of gang violence, hate violence, intimate partner violence, sexual assault, services for surviving family members of homicide victims. We co-founded the Orange County Human Trafficking Task Force, and we established a crisis response team for mass victimization and crimes that have community impact. As Waymakers, we walk alongside thousands of individuals who have found themselves in crisis due to criminal acts. And that's thousands of individuals every year. Many of these individuals come to us in situations that have left them feeling vulnerable, desperate, afraid, lonely, invisible, lost, ashamed, isolated, frequently at the worst point of their lives. Through our work, we're able to provide the support, resources, and coping tools that help them to discover community, support, connection, resiliency, trust, opportunity, safety, and hope. Today, as we gather to commemorate Crime Victims' Rights Week, I want to acknowledge the victims who have joined us. We recognize the courage it takes for you to share your stories. We respect the courage it takes to move through the devastation that you have endured. And we are grateful for all that you have done and will do to fight for victims to have a voice. You truly embody the National Victims' Rights theme as you use your voices to elevate, engage, and affect change. For 50 years, Waymakers has been guiding individuals as they take a path towards a place of strength and stability. We do so with immense sorrow that our services are needed, but with joy that we are the ones who have the honor of walking alongside some of the bravest people we know. Thank you for your support and attendance today.
Thank you, Ms. Grace and Ms. Johnson. It's now my privilege to introduce California State Senator Tom Umberg. Senator Umberg tried everything he could to be here today, but he's needed on the Senate floor. More than 700,000 Americans have died as a result of fentanyl. In fact, fentanyl is outpacing suicide, car accidents, and gun violence as the leading cause of death among Americans 18 to 45. 6 out of every 10 pills sold on the street contain fentanyl. Our children who consume them are gambling with their lives, and the fatal odds are stacked against them. The Orange County District Attorney's Office, our law enforcement partners, and parents who have lost their children to fentanyl have joined together with Senator Umberg to combat America's fentanyl crisis. Senator Umberg will be appearing with us via video message today to discuss those collaborative efforts. Let's hear from Senator Umberg.
Hi, I'm State Senator Tom Umberg, and I want to begin by thanking the families who've turned their personal tragedies into something to benefit others. Families that have been impacted, devastated, aggrieved by drug overdoses and the depths of despair that they've caused. I want to thank District Attorney Todd Spitzer also for organizing this group effort to make a difference in terms of overdose deaths. Fentanyl has caused more harm than virtually any other drug that we've seen on the scene in many, 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 many years. I spent lots of my career all over the world, whether it's Afghanistan in the Army or South America when I worked in the administration, dealing with drug issues. I was a federal prosecutor here in Orange County, prosecuting drug cases, but nothing like the epidemic that we've seen that's caused by, created by, and contributed to by fentanyl that we've seen before. Never have we seen people that are buying Xanax and find out that one tablet of Xanax laced with fentanyl can kill someone, or oxycodone, or so many other drugs that now contain some compound that contains fentanyl. What do we do about it? Well, there's several things we can do about it. First, you're doing it right now. By educating folks and raising awareness, that is critically important. Young people simply don't know that one pill can kill. One pill can kill. That's number one. Number two, we have legislation. I have legislation that some of you may be aware of here in Sacramento that helps to mitigate and address the issue. First, there's Senate Bill 44. Senate Bill 44 was based on an event, catalyzed by an event here in our community, Alexandra's Law. Alexandra was a young woman who thought she was buying oxycodone. Turns out that she was buying something that contained fentanyl passed away within 24 hours. What SB 44 does, it says that if you sell a drug that contains fentanyl, you're told, you're admonished, you're warned, if you do that again and someone dies, you could be charged with a homicide. It's a warning followed up by enhanced, for example, punishment if you do it again. It's a very simple bill. Sadly, it failed passage the first time around, but we're still working on it. I'm going to ask you to continue to still work on it. We also have SB 60. SB 60 addresses the issue of when those who sell fentanyl sell it on the web through social media. And what that bill does, it says that if someone is selling an illicit drug using social media, is that the police or even an individual can notify that social media platform, tell them to take it down. If they don't, they can be forced to take it down by a judge. And then lastly, another bill, SB 250. SB 250 is a bill that helps when someone is overdosing or someone knows that they purchased something. For example, they test whatever compound they purchased, it turns out it has fentanyl. They can call the police. They can tell the police, hey, either I just purchased something with fentanyl or my friend is overdosing or maybe I'm overdosing. And that phone call, that information can't be used against that person. The purpose is to encourage people to report whether it's the presence of fentanyl or to report someone who's overdosing. But you can help. You can help by contacting your local legislator. Right now on SB 44, the bill concerning an admonishment, we have 21 of the 40 members of the state Senate who have co-authored the bill. But we need your help. We need your help to tell your story. You go to our website and tell your story. Your help by contacting legislators and ask them to support the bill package that we just described and so many other things that are dealing with the fentanyl crisis. Let me conclude once more by thanking you. Thanking you for doing what you can, taking your despair and turning it into something that's positive for our community. Thanks.
And our thanks to Senator Umberg. It's now my honor to introduce Matt Capoletto, Perla Mendoza, and Chris Jenkins, parents who have been fighting to hold drug dealers accountable for killing their children with fentanyl. Alexandra, Elijah, and Justin all died from fentanyl. Any other parents who have lost their children as a result of fentanyl are welcome to stand up here as well as we welcome Matt, Perla, and Chris.
If you're a parent who's lost a child to fentanyl, or if you're a family member who's lost a loved one, please come up and join us. Good morning. My daughter Alex didn't know she was being handed a pill that was counterfeit, made with a lethal dose of fentanyl, and that her life would end just a few seconds after taking it. The drug dealer, or who I prefer to call a death dealer, that handed her that pill did know that there was fentanyl in that pill, and it could very well kill her. And it did. He sold it to her anyway. That day, the death of my daughter would make me and my family forever victims of crime. And what I didn't know then, but I know now, is I would spend the next few years fighting to save other Californians and the families that love them from living with the daily horror caused by this deadly man-made drug and the people that sell it. I'm tired of begging and pleading for the leaders in this state to do something about this. And while I'm honored to be invited to today's event, I'll be honest, I'm not happy to be here. Because of the death dealer who traded my daughter's life for a few dollars, I have to be here and will continue to show up and speak on behalf of living victims like my family. I say living victims because many of us speaking today have experienced a loss of a friend, child, or family member at the hands of evil. Living each day since the killing of our daughter Alexandra is a reminder of the life she will never experience. Me, my wife, our family are victims of the murderer who chose drug money over the life of our Alex. It's been over 3 years since she's been gone. I've spoken in front of groups, councils, boards, congressmen, and committee members. I tell the story over and over again, like many of the people here. The pain of reliving that day never goes away, but I don't want it to, because like my daughter would have, we are fighting to save others. That's what matters now. That's why 3 times I have stood before the California Senate Public Safety Committee pleading with them to pass Alexandra's Law, a common sense bill that will save lives. But so far, I haven't seen anything that resembles a real desire by Senate committee members Scott Wiener, Stephen Bradford, Nancy Skinner, or Aisha Wahab to do anything to prevent more deaths from fentanyl poisoning occurring in our state. To date, there are no significant laws on the books in California that hold fentanyl dealers accountable because they can't make it out of committee. As of today, every week, 110 Californians are being killed by drug dealers distributing fentanyl. This is unacceptable to me. This is unacceptable to all the people here today. This is unacceptable by the majority of our state legislators. So I ask, why is it acceptable by the California Senate Public Safety Committee? Our bill, SB 44, Alexandra's Law, has 21 co-authors from the Senate. That is a majority of the Senate who have signed on to this bill. And if the so-called Public Safety Committee moved it to the floor, it would pass. Tomorrow, they will have yet another chance to consider it and even agree to continue the conversation. When a drug dealer is convicted of a fentanyl-related drug offense, the bill would require the offender to be served a written advisory and admonishment. The document would advise them of the danger of manufacturing and distributing fentanyl and of the potential future criminal liability if another person dies as a result of that person's continued actions. Basically, they are warned that if they are convicted of selling fentanyl illegally and they do it again and someone dies as a result, they can be charged with homicide. This approach is not unique. This bill creates a procedure which mirrors what's called a Watson advisement when someone is convicted of a DUI and causes a car accident. If they are drunk and cause another accident which results in a death, they can be charged with murder. That exists right now, and it saves lives. Alexandra's Law isn't outlandish. It's not designed to fill jails and prisons with petty drug offenders. It doesn't lock up a kid for life for handing a friend a pill at a party like Senate Safety Committee member Scott Wiener says it'll do. It's not part of any failed policies of the past that lock up minorities at disproportionate rates like Senate Safety Committee member Stephen Bradford says it'll do. It establishes a semblance of accountability for drug dealers who knowingly continue to sell fentanyl on our streets, which result in yet another death. Both sides of the aisle can agree on that, and they do. From what I have seen so far from this committee, their continued irresponsible dedication to doing nothing can only be described as a massive failure to act on behalf of Californians and a dereliction of their duty as assigned to them in service on the committee. The mental and moral gymnastics one has to do to continue to deny justice to victims of these fentanyl-related crimes borders on criminal. The pendulum has swung too far in the direction of the killers and too far away from the victims. If the Public Safety Committee won't do the minimum and move bills like Alexandra's Law onto the floor for a vote, it looks like the citizens of California will do it themselves. FentanylSolution.org, a leading advocacy group committed to raising awareness about the dangers of fentanyl and advocating for stricter penalties for fentanyl dealers, is launching a $2.2 million Pull to Prop initiative and plans to take this issue to the voters in the next presidential election. And that gives me hope. Hope that Californians will come together and put people ahead of politics. If the California Public Safety Committee can't muster the courage to do it themselves, we will. Finally, I will tell you that as victims, my family is fortunate. Thanks to a dedicated group of federal investigators and prosecutors, the drug dealer who sold the pill that killed my daughter is serving 9 years in federal prison. That's 9 years we can be assured he's not out peddling poison to other unsuspecting victims. We are fortunate because only about 1% of all drug deaths result in the conviction of a drug dealer. When opponents say locking up drug dealers doesn't save lives, please remind them of that statistic. Make them aware that under current California laws of not holding drug dealers accountable, we have recorded the highest number of drug deaths in our state's history. But our pain didn't end with a conviction. We're still victims. Like many of us here, we will always be victims, and victims deserve justice. I want all the parents and families of victims to know that our hearts are with each and every one of you. The fights we fight are righteous and good for the memories of those we have lost, and good for all Californians. We will never forget, we will never give up, and we stand with all of you. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. My name is Perla Mendoza. I stand here with a picture of my beautiful son, my only child, my baby born Christmas Eve, Elijah Figueroa. After losing my son and finding out that his death was a result of fentanyl poisoning, I call it fentanyl poisoning because my son was deceived by the person that sold him the substance. Not only was he deceived, my son's drug supplier is linked to several other deaths here in Orange County. Knowing that, I knew that I had to do something about it. So I got involved. I'm using my voice, joining forces with other parents to help spread awareness. I've launched a nonprofit called Project Eli, with the sole purpose of spreading awareness on this epidemic and teaching people how to prevent more overdoses in our community. Losing a child is the worst thing that one can imagine, as I'm sure many of you can attest to. I thank our local leaders, sheriff's departments, police departments, for the support you've given. I thank Todd Spitzer for opening his office to talk to us. The encouragement that you give, that our leaders give, that our police officers give is vital. So we're not getting that support from our legislative leaders, or at least not all of them. So I thank you for that. It makes all the difference. Knowing that Todd Spitzer had my back was like, all right, I got this. So here I go. I will see you, Matt, tomorrow in Sacramento, and we will continue to fight for all of your children, for your grandchildren and the future generations. I know my son is gone, and nothing I can do will bring him back. But this is how I choose to honor my boy and to continue being a person that can provide a service and hopefully prevent other deaths from occurring. I thank my fellow bereaved parents for their support. You guys have no idea, for those of you who have lost a child, how difficult it is to get up every morning and face a new day. I stand here for all the mothers that are at home weeping, wishing that they could be here today. For the mothers that don't have the energy or time to go to Sacramento or money to fight, I fight for you. And I thank you for your support. I introduce Chris Jenkins.
Good morning. My name is Chris Jenkins. I live out in Laguna Niguel. Thank you, community members. Thank you, Todd Spitzer, for all that you do, and Men in Blue, and Women, and in Green. Thank you so much. It's much appreciated. I stand before you today as a grieving father, mourning the loss of my beloved son, Justin, who fell victim to drug addiction problem that started with oxycodone and ended with fentanyl. This journey began from a football injury and resulted in 3 surgeries to repair it. Justin was a gifted athlete and a kind-hearted individual who always put others before himself. It is heartbreaking to see how drugs can take away the lives of our loved ones and leave us with unbearable pain and grief. I never thought I would be standing here speaking about my son's tragic demise, but it is a reality we need to face. Fentanyl has been taking the lives of our young and talented children, leaving us with a void that can never be filled. In 2021 alone, 147 people lost their lives to fentanyl within 10 miles of our home. I have the coroner's listing of all the deaths close to our home, and it is staggering. It is a shocking statistic that should ring alarm bells for all of us. But we are not helpless in this fight against drugs. We can take action to prevent such tragedies from happening again. The passage of SB 44 will help law enforcement combat the spread of fentanyl, and I urge all of you to support the bill. We need to do more as a community to provide support and resources to those struggling with drug addiction. We cannot let the stigma surrounding addiction prevent us from reaching out to those who need our help the most. Lastly, I want to acknowledge the grief of all parents who have lost their children to fentanyl. Justin was the first to reach out to some of the grieving parents, and I know that he would want us to stand together and support each other in this difficult time. Let us work together to honor the memory of our loved ones by taking action to prevent more lives from being lost to fentanyl. I'd like to read a statement written by my daughter, Ashley, basically kind of describing what our son was like. Justin was a son, brother, uncle, grandson, and friend, a truly special human. Being that left a trail of belly laughs and bright-eyed smiles in his wake. Justin had a magic personality. He was deeply intuitive, empathetic, and funny. He could read a room in a heartbeat and knew exactly how each person felt. Even as a child, he always knew when a loved one was having a bad day, and he knew exactly what to say to make that person feel better. No matter the age, the education, or income level, Justin could make anyone feel comfortable and had an extreme sense of altruism. His $1 million smile lit up the room, and his eyes danced like the morning sun. Even in hard times, he knew exactly how to make people laugh in stitches with his jokes and incredible impressions. Most people knew Justin as a gifted athlete, but what was truly special about Justin was how he used his athletic gifts to help children. When he coached children's tennis in high school, he was much more than a coach. After each lesson, those tiny tennis players would run up to Justin and hug him around his knees. They were simply beaming with confidence and joy. Justin may have had only 30 years on this planet, but he had an impact. He never missed an opportunity to express his love to his family and friends. And daily he called or texted his parents, "Love you. We love you and miss you, Jesse J. You will always be in our hearts. And we will see you again." Thank you.
Thank you, Matt, Perla, Chris, all the parents and loved ones who've joined us today. We're sorry for your loss, but we are grateful for your bravery, your resilience, and your dedication. There's a time-honored tradition of our law enforcement officers wearing their badges over their hearts. It's a symbol of their commitment to protect and serve our communities and their willingness to put their own lives on the line to protect the lives of others. That commitment, though, comes at a significant price, and sometimes even the ultimate price. According to the FBI, in 2021, 129 officers were killed in the line of duty, and tens of thousands more assaulted while performing their duties. Officer down are perhaps the last 2 words any member of law enforcement, let alone their chief, wants to hear break across the radio. Today, we have the privilege from two Orange County's finest law enforcement officers being here who were violently attacked while protecting and serving our communities, and thank God they survived. It's now my honor to introduce Brea Police Chief Adam Hawley, who will share with you how a simple traffic stop turned into the fight of Officer Stephen Wolf's life. Officer Wolf will then share his experience. Chief Hawley, welcome.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for the opportunity to be present here with you today. Truly some amazing families that are here with us. I'm here this morning on behalf of Brea Police Department Officer Stephen Wolf and all the men and women of the Brea Police Department. Today, we stand shoulder to shoulder with all victims of crimes and law enforcement officers here in the County of Orange to denounce violent assaults against peace officers. In just a few minutes, you'll hear firsthand from Officer Wolf about his encounter with a violent felon determined to escape at any cost, including violently assaulting Officer Wolf. And the facts of this case lay bare. This was no simple assault against a police officer. The defendant, a wanted felon, initially fled from Officer Wolf, but then ran back to his car, where Officer Wolf grabbed him and attempted to take him into custody. Instead of surrendering, the defendant violently attacked Officer Wolf. And during the ensuing fight, the defendant firmly grabbed a hold of Officer Wolf's handgun. The defendant pulled so hard on Officer Wolf's firearm that he ripped the top portion of the holster from its base plate, completely breaking 2 of the 3 screws securing it, leaving Officer Wolf's firearm dangling upside down from his gun belt. During the struggle, the defendant is clearly heard on body-worn camera yelling multiple times to his girlfriend, who was a passenger in the vehicle, "Babe, grab his gun. Grab his gun. Babe, grab his gun. Grab it." Those are not the actions or words of a person attempting to surrender or de-escalate. Instead, these are the actions and words of a person intent on harm. Really, throughout this entire encounter, the defendant had multiple opportunities to stop, to surrender, but instead, he chose to escalate his behavior, thereby putting Officer Wolf and other innocent people's lives at risk. I firmly believe that if not for Officer Wolf's physical and mental toughness and the intervention of a good Samaritan, the defendant would have obtained control of Officer Wolf's handgun, and we would be left mourning another peace officer killed in the line of duty. It's clear that this defendant is a danger to society. He's a previously convicted felon with a lengthy criminal history. And the facts of this case show absolutely no mitigating circumstances, but rather multiple aggravating circumstances. And the defendant faced a maximum exposure of 6 years and 8 months in state prison. But despite the violent nature of this assault and the defendant's multiple prior convictions for crimes like resisting or obstructing police officers, a felony conviction for manufacturing a firearm, and a prior strike for second-degree robbery, the judge in this case disregarded the defendant's prior strike, and we're all too familiar with this kind of a tale, and allowed him to plead guilty and receive the light sentence of only 2 years in state prison. Well, of course, the defendant quickly took this deal, and he's already back out on the street. We in law enforcement, well, we're doing our part to keep our communities safe, but we can often feel undermined when defendants are not held accountable by their actions by our courts. And now it's my honor to introduce to you Brea Police Department officer and Medal of Honor recipient, Officer Stephen Wolf, to share firsthand his story.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you for letting me come here today and share my story. So I'm Officer Stephen Wolf with the Brea Police Department. I am a husband, a father, a son, and a brother. I am more than the uniform I wear, and I am grateful for the opportunity to be here today and share my story with you. On February 2nd, 2022, while working uniform patrol, I conducted a traffic stop of a car that was associated to a felon. As the vehicle slowly drove in the parking lot, passing multiple locations to stop, I knew something was not normal with this situation. As the vehicle finally came to a stop, the suspect immediately opened the door and began running westbound in the Home Depot parking lot. I immediately radioed for backup and stated the driver took off running and I pursued on foot. As I began to gain ground on the suspect circled back and proceeded to run back to his vehicle. I observed a female passenger standing outside of the back of the vehicle. I grabbed the suspect to prevent him from entering back into the vehicle. At this time, the suspect continued to resist, and we wrestled on the ground for several minutes. During the scuffle, I felt the suspect grab for my firearm that is attached to my duty belt and connected with a leg extension holster. The suspect grabbed so violently on my firearm that the screws that had held the firearm to the holster became detached. I was able to fend off and prevent the suspect from gaining control of my firearm. I believe the suspect intended to take my firearm and use it to end my life. I was very frightened for my safety and other civilians in the location, and I fought with all my power and strength to not allow the suspect to gain control of my firearm. During the altercation, the suspect yelled to the female passenger to grab my gun multiple times. While the suspect and I were on the ground, a retired police officer saw the struggle and came over to assist me in preventing the suspect from escaping and taking my firearm. I believe my life and the lives of others were in jeopardy, and without the assistance of the retired police officer, the outcome could have been very different. I knew I needed to do everything in my power to fight for my life and hold off the suspect until additional officers arrived. If the retired police officer were not there to help, I believe the suspect and the female passenger could have worked together in order to take my firearm and use it to kill me. This incident has not only affected me, but affected my family. During the scuffle, my only thought was I needed to make it home safely to them. As a police officer, I have trained for many scenarios, but nothing could have prepared me for the fear the suspect's actions caused me, my wife, and my family. I stand here both as a police officer and as a victim of one of the scariest moments in my life. I stand here before you to support the officers who have given the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty. I later provided a victim's testimony at the North Justice Center with the support of multiple police agency personnel. During my testimony, I looked for the judicial system to support all law enforcement officers by ensuring the suspect gets the maximum time for his attempt to end my life. Thank you for taking your time to listen to my story.
Thank you, Chief Hawley and Officer Wolf. It's now my honor to introduce Sheriff Don Barnes, who will share with you how in a split second he saw an entire night shift patrolling the city of Yorba Linda hit by a drunk driver, seriously injuring a sergeant, and trapping Deputy Kiana Lewis under a patrol vehicle. We're grateful for them to be here today, as we are all of you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today, and to the families that spoke earlier. I cannot tell you how sorry we are for your loss, and also thankful for your courage to stand up on such a very difficult topic that's so personal to you for the benefit of others. And I can tell you that having testified several times in the State Public Safety Committee before, In fact, I call it the Anything But Keep the Public Safe Committee because that's not what they do. We've sponsored legislation on fentanyl for 7 years now. And I'll never forget in 2018 testifying in the Public Safety Committee, having one member of the Public Safety Committee say, this legislation isn't necessary because, quote, people aren't dying from fentanyl. Having Senator Skinner look at me and say, this legislation is not necessary because fentanyl is always trafficked mixed with a narcotic. And we know now that with hundreds of pounds seized by my department alone, we know that's not true. Or last year when Senator Scott Wiener said, this is going to disproportionately target those who are users, and the legislation had nothing to do with users, only dealers. And I say that and I make no apology for any one of the three, including Senator Bradford. You are all just liars. You lie to the public every day. And you're now being known and being brought out and called out for who you are as just being liars. And I make no apology for calling any one of you that. I'm here today with Deputy Kiana Lewis to share her story. And those who know me know that I have one simple rule. Rule number one is everyone goes home at the end of their shift. That's just not every deputy or every officer in uniform, that's everybody. We strive to make sure everybody goes home. And unfortunately, on July 19th, 2022, that did not happen. Although we're extremely grateful our person involved in this incident survived, on that night their lives were forever changed. At 1:18 a.m., 4 of our deputies were involved in an investigative stop on the South Imperial Highway in the city of Yorba Linda. Around that time, 21-year-old Chase Brannon was speeding when he crashed into the back of one of the patrol vehicles. That vehicle, the momentum from the crash caused that vehicle to crash into the supervisor unit, which hit Deputy Kiana Lewis, pulling her underneath the unit and pinning her. She was trapped for more than 30 minutes until firefighters could pull her out and take her to a local hospital. The actions of a single drunk driver devastated the night, our night shift, and we had to call for mutual aid to cover services for the city while the deputies were treated for their injuries. While several deputies detained injuries that night, including Sergeant Brian Robbins, who suffered torn ligaments to his ankle, Deputy Lewis was the most gravely injured. She suffered broken ankles, damaged ACL tendons, and severe back injuries. She underwent surgery and remained in the hospital for several weeks before being released to a rehabilitative facility. A CrossFit athlete, Deputy Lewis was forced to use a walker for months after the collision and is still facing additional surgeries. She remains unable to return to duty as of today as a result of her injuries. An hour after the crash, the driver's blood alcohol content was 0.153%, nearly twice the legal limit that is allowed to be consumed, and also had trace levels of THC found in his blood, which has a synergistic intoxicating effect on the driver. Days after the incident, the defendant showed up at the Yorba Linda substation, not to say he was sorry or to check on the well-being of the deputies involved. He showed no remorse. He was concerned about where he could get his truck back. Mr. Brannon was facing 2 strikes for the great bodily injury enhancements for Sergeant Robbins and Deputy Lewis, and a maximum of 9 years in state prison. Orange County Superior Court Judge Garcia Apkarian, a Jerry Brown appointed judge who heard multiple victim impact statements from Sergeant Robbins, Deputy Lewis, Deputy Trujillo about how this incident had altered their lives, did not sentence Brannon to the maximum. Instead, she allowed Mr. Brannon to plead guilty to a court offer of 364 days in Orange County Jail, not state prison, and 2 years of formal probation. Judge Apkarian's sentence included a provision that if the defendant successfully completes the terms of his probation for 23 months, by the way, that includes the 1 year he's in jail, with no probation violations and no new violations, that the strike enhancements could be dismissed. The week before the incident, Deputy Lewis was awarded the Mothers Against Drunk Driving Award, a ceremony held just a few blocks away from where she would be pinned under the patrol vehicle in an accident caused by a drunk driver. Deputy Lewis still has a long road of recovery ahead. But as you will hear when she speaks today, she is strong and she is determined. I know she will fight hard for every milestone in the healing journey ahead of her. Beyond the physical trauma she and her partners experienced that night, they also must overcome the mental and emotional trauma they sustained. Sometimes that can be the most difficult part. Failing to hold Mr. Brandon responsible for his actions to the fullest extent adds to that trauma. It is important for us to recognize the impact criminal actions and the judicial outcome that follows has on the survivors. As peace officers, Deputy Lewis and Officer Wolf find themselves in unfamiliar territory. They have dedicated their lives to being the safe place people call home when someone needs help or has become a victim of crime. Now, they are among those we call survivors, and we stand alongside them today with gratitude and respect for the sacrifices they have made. Before Deputy Lewis comes up, I just want to add one thing about where we're broken. If these legislative actions that we've seen over the last decade, AB 109, Prop 47, Prop 57, how the Public Safety Committees act, if any one of all these legislation happened in one calendar year, we would know how crazy this state is and we would hold people accountable for it. But they don't. Incrementally, they rebrand the environment in which we have to operate. And I'll tell you what drives me crazy is when we refer to people to make them feel better about themselves, calling them justice involved. These people aren't justice involved. They weren't invited to a party they didn't want to come to. They had actions, intentional actions that caused their own outcomes. So I will refer to Deputy Lewis as involuntarily justice involved. She didn't get invited to this. This happened upon her. And going forward, I think we're not going to rebrand criminals to call them less of what they are to make them feel better about themselves. We're going to make sure everybody knows who they are. We're going to keep fighting the good fight. And in Orange County, we're not going to stop until we change the legislation to protect the people we are sworn to protect. Ladies and gentlemen, Deputy Kiana Lewis.
Martin Luther King Jr. said, "The true measure of a man is not how he behaves in moments of comfort and convenience, but how he stands at times of controversy and challenges." Now, I believe there will be challenges in life that test your heart so severely, so much so that everything inside of you just wants to quit. There's going to be times when you go through so much adversity that you feel like you're all alone in a storm that just doesn't seem to stop. I believe this is one of those times. Monday, July 18th, 2022, that day started out like any other day. But unlike most people, my day starts at 6 p.m. I work the night shift, and what a typical day or shift looks like for me is anything but typical to someone who isn't a first responder. I woke up, I arrived to work, geared up, and I started my shift. Around 12 a.m. on Tuesday, July 19th, 2022, my partner and his ride-along, who was also a deputy, stopped a subject and requested additional assistance. Now, for a situation like this, it isn't uncommon for a few of us to respond. That's just what we do as law enforcement. We show up for each other. Shortly after a few of us showed up to help, the nightmare began. I remember hearing a vehicle start to speed up as it got closer to our location. I remember thinking, wow, I can already tell that person is going way too. And then just like that, it happened. Before I could even finish that thought in my head, the powerful impact of the driver's vehicle launched one of the patrol vehicles up and over the curb and into all of us. Most of us were left with physical injuries, but all of us were hit with some kind of trauma. I was hit, ran over, dragged through the mud, twisted and pinned under the patrol vehicle for over 20 minutes. I remember feeling every hit, every tear, and every pop. I screamed out that I was stuck from under the vehicle. I quickly glanced up towards my legs, and I saw one twisted up in the wheel well, while the other was pinned under the rear tire. I then looked up and saw the absolute horror on my sergeant's face as he focused on me and the horrific scene that had just unfolded. And that's something I'll never forget in my lifetime. The driver, Chase Brannon, who was under the influence of alcohol and drugs at the time of the crash, got out of his truck that was totaled and tried to leave. But he was apprehended by the only deputy that wasn't physically hit. I thank God every day that that deputy was there and he was not injured. Orange County Fire Station 10 arrived, among an array of other stations, assessed the damage, and got the patrol vehicle lifted enough to pull me out. I was rushed to the hospital with the coordination of our sheriff's helicopter Duke and multiple police agencies throughout Orange County. For that, I am extremely grateful. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you to everyone that came to help us that night. But like I said, that's what we do. We show up for each other. I was diagnosed with fractures in my left foot and ankle, as well as ligament injuries, damage to both knees that required surgery in both, trauma to my back requiring an elevated level of diagnosis and treatment, as well as other injuries from the blunt force trauma. Looking back, when I first graduated the Orange County Sheriff's Academy and I took the oath, I had hopes in eventually becoming a patrol canine officer, working with VICE, helping in search and rescue, assisting SWAT with medical aids, and eventually becoming an investigator. I just really wanted to get out there and help people. So far, all of that has been on hold with no definite return date thus far. 280 days to date, but who's counting? Throughout this process, and as I wait for this next surgery, I've had a lot of time to think. I think a lot about the impact that this has had on me and how I've had to learn the true meaning of patience through adversity. Setbacks, denials, diagnosis after diagnosis, injustice, isolation, and other levels of hardship have all been a part of the process. Right now, my job is to heal. And when we think about healing, we think problem and solution. For example, if you have a scratch, you put a Band-Aid on it. If you have a broken leg, you put a cast on it. There's a certain formula to it. But what is the formula to broken trust? There isn't a specific solution to it, and that's what nobody tells you about the mental side of trauma. I've been trying to navigate these feelings of anger, sadness, fear, loneliness, and rage surrounding the events that have happened to me. And it wasn't until a good friend brought up the idea of trust, or lack thereof, in certain systems that left me feeling like I, as a victim, was cheated. From that, I was able to formulate that those negative emotions that I was going through all stemmed from broken trust. My trust in the court system delivering true justice was broken with this phrase: I don't want to ruin the rest of his life. That's the one phrase I remember on the final day of court from the judge that seems to play on a loop in my head. The judge sentenced the 21-year-old DUI driver, Chase Brannon, an adult, to less than a year in jail with 2 strikes on his record for the great bodily injury he caused among multiple deputies. He will be allowed to get both strikes removed off of his record after time on probation, as if nothing ever happened. She said, I don't want to ruin the rest of his life. Yes, but I'll be serving more time than what he was sentenced to. I may not be in jail, but I've been a prisoner to the physical and mental pain for more than 9 months to date. Upcoming surgery, procedures, and recovery will put me well over the roughly 10 months' time that he will serve. She said, I don't want to ruin the rest of his life. Yet I don't get to wipe the scars off of my body caused from the chaos that he created, while he'll get to wipe the strikes off of his record. She said, I don't want to ruin the rest of his life, as if the entire Yorba Linda Shift's lives didn't matter. How much more broken and traumatized did we need to be as the victims for the consideration of how ruined our lives were? My trust in that system was crushed when a criminal's comfort in life was put before the true justice of the innocent victims. As a survivor, I should not have to settle. We all should not have to settle for the bare minimum when it comes to justice. Because when the punishment doesn't fit the crime, it adds more pain to what the victims have already endured. It creates the reality of unaccountability for DUI drivers causing havoc, and it provides them another opportunity to cause chaos behind the wheel. It shouldn't have been, I don't want to ruin the rest of his life. It should have been, the victims have suffered enough. The perception that people who drive while under the influence deserve chance after chance is just another opportunity for them to kill someone. It's 100% preventable, and it's time that the judgments in court start to reflect the zero tolerance policy that should be standard. The sentences should reflect the countless victims' lives that have truly been ruined. There's a quote that reads, "Trust is earned when actions meet words." It's something we do as law enforcement when we take the oath, a promise to serve and protect. The best thing about law enforcement is even as victims and through all the adversity, we're still gonna uphold that oath, that promise. And as my mom always taught me, you follow through on all of your promises. So my partners and I are here, broken and bruised, but trust that we are still gonna be ready to answer the call. So if the true measure of a man is how he stands at times of controversy and challenges, how do you think we measure up? Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff Barnes and Deputy Lewis. I'd now like to invite District Attorney Todd Spitzer to make a few closing remarks.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you all for coming today. And I want to thank the staff for putting this event together, and especially thank Kimberly Eds and her staff. She was the one that had the idea, and we broke precedent today. When we've had crime victims in the past, it's always been civilians who have been victims of crimes. This is the first time I can recollect in the decades that we've had this event where we actually had police officers as victims. I was in court with Officer Wolf and Chief Hawley, and I went into chambers to let the judge know that Chief Hawley wanted to address the court as a Marsy's Law advocate. If you recall, under Marsy's Law, you're free to designate anybody to be your advocate. That is in Article 1, Section 28 of the Constitution of California. The judge said to me, "Did you have anything to do with packing this courtroom?" Actually, I did not. The courtroom was packed with uniforms of blue and staff from the Brea Police Department because they cared deeply about what happened to one of their comrades in that department. I was there because I cared deeply about what had happened to Officer Wolf when he was on patrol. And I was deeply concerned about what the disposition or offer would be in that case from the court. The judge told me that Chief Hawley was not a victim, but she would let him give a victim impact statement under her discretion. I have to scratch my head and quite frankly say to you, the chief of police who swears in that officer for that particular department, and as you heard the facts of the case, that Officer Wolf was assaulted by a striker, where his gun belt was dislodged literally from its screws on his holster, and the chief is not a victim. But what Officer Wolf didn't tell you in his statement today is what the judge said to him after he gave his victim impact statement, and I was standing literally feet away. She said, "Isn't that what you signed up for when you became a police officer?" I literally was flabbergasted at that statement and the lack of any sensitivity. When Senator Umberg gave his video, he stood outside the Capitol, and that is actually the front of the Capitol that faces our Supreme Court. I was a member of the Assembly Public Safety Committee when I was in the legislature. So I'm fully versed on what the sheriff said about the fact that there isn't one iota of safety in the business of any of the two public safety committees, either in the Assembly or the Senate. I feel as a system we're failing. If you look at where you're seated, where we, because of the permission of the Board of Supervisors, placed the Crime Victims Monument, this is the law enforcement center of the county. The sheriff is on one side, the DA is on the other side. That was purposeful in the redesign of our civic center. This should be the place where you have utter confidence that justice is happening. And you should be able to look over my shoulder in your view at the Superior Court, and you should be able to tell yourself that justice is occurring every single day. You should be able to look at the video with Senator Umberg and look at the edifice of one of the most important legislatures in the United States, sincerely one of the most powerful, and have confidence in the work that is happening inside that Capitol to protect the public. And yet I think you hear by both the testimony today of the victims who have lost their children to fentanyl, which is not an overdose, it's not a war on drugs, it's a war on murder. And you hear from the police officers, and you have to say to yourself, what the hell is going on here? Some of you know the story when I was at the police academy, the Reserve Academy in 1990, and during a training on first aid, I passed out. Fell out of my chair, passed out. After I came to, they called me up to the trailer, and the sergeant says to me, "Are you sure you can be a police officer? You know, you can't pass out when you get to a crime scene." So I came back to the district attorney's office where I was a full-time prosecutor, and I started looking at crime scene photos, and I did everything I could to desensitize myself. I even went to the coroner's office and forced myself to endure that process. I systematically tried to make myself not sensitive. Think about the law enforcement actors in society today who have to put up and deal with the things they see day in and day out every single night, every single day, every single shift. The unbelievable resolve of law enforcement is something we should hold to the highest level on the highest pedestal. It shouldn't be about destroying law enforcement in America today and tearing down our police departments and our police officers. The prosecutors and the administrative staff and the people that work on this side of the quad are honorable and hardworking and hard charging and care deeply. And every day they walk into the entrance of our building and they see this monument. What the hell is going on? Kids are dying. Police officers are being assaulted. Judges are telling chiefs, you're not a victim. Police officers are being told, you signed up for this job. There's several emotions that are terrible to possess in this arena of public policy and decision making from people like me, and that's anger and emotion. I desensitized myself so I could work patrol and do the job that I did as a reserve police officer. And I get up every day to do the job to be the district attorney of this county. But on Saturday night, when I got the phone call from a neighbor and I saw my caller ID that my next door neighbor was calling me, and I picked up the phone and said, what's going on? She said, are you home? We weren't. Do you know there's incredibly loud music coming from your house? I didn't. So when I turned on the video camera for my backyard and saw 50 teenagers in my backyard for my daughter's birthday, unbeknownst to us, I freaked out. And you know why I freaked out? Because of fentanyl. Because of what I know. Because I know it just takes one pill. That I know teenagers do stupid things. But it's not because they're stupid, it's just because they did something that was unsuspecting. And the consequences are dire. Yes, death. And I was so upset when I called my daughter, I lost it. I cannot imagine what it feels like to lose a child. But I can tell you, when I passed out and I had to desensitize myself, I did it to survive. But I am so grateful to God that we have our emotions and our passion and that we get up every day to do this job because we will not give up, because what is happening in the courts and in Sacramento is just plain wrong. And it's because of us. It's us collectively that are holding down the fort. It is us that is allowing Orange County to be California's safest county. It is us that will not give up any ground. It is us that are going to Sacramento and testifying in front of these committees. It is us that is telling Senator Skinner and Senator Bradford, we will not tolerate this in California or in our county. It is us. It is us. And I'm so proud to be part of this community in this county. For 30 years, I have been part of this county in this professional capacity. And as I look out around you, I just wanted to let you know this. This means something sacred. This is sacred ground. It allows and makes us understand we will never forget our victims. We will never let people think that those who have died from fentanyl is an overdose. It's a poisoning. We will never forget law enforcement and those that are sacrificing. We'll never forget our military or those who are in leadership in this country, guiding this country. And to me personally, I'll never forget God. So from the bottom of my heart, I'm angry, I'm sad. Terrible emotions to have. Not for this kind of work. But I'm grateful. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for all of you. I'm grateful to the amazing, hardworking people who do this work every day. And I'm grateful for my family. And I'm grateful that my daughter, no one got hurt. But the results could have been disastrous Saturday night. They could have been horrible. And I didn't have to deal with that, thank God. But you have. And I will never, ever leave your side. Law enforcement, the men in green and blue will never leave your side. Our prosecutors, our administrative staff, we will never leave your side. We will be at your parole hearings. We will be there to testify in committee. We will be there to support you. We will never give up or leave your side. And to Perla, I want to thank you specifically because you said something that is more meaningful that a person in my position appreciates. When somebody tells you that something you did for them made you understand that they could go forward with strength, that's the greatest gift you could give a human being. Something you did allowed Perla Mendoza to move forward to talk about her son. That's the greatest gift. You gave me a blessing today, and so did all of you. So God bless everybody. God bless Orange County, and God bless the United States of America, a country that is always worth fighting for because it's given us so many opportunities, so much fortitude, and so much strength. And I'm forever grateful to all of you. Thank you, and God bless you.
At this time, I'd like to invite Reverend Moon to provide a closing prayer. Reverend Moon.
Before I start a benediction, I would like to read the scripture from the Bible, the Matthew chapter 10. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. And rather, be afraid of the one who can destroy both soul and the body in hell. Are not two sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground outside your Father's care. And even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. So don't be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. Let us pray together. Heavenly Father, you are the defender of the weak and powerless. Lord Jesus, during your life on earth, you were known as the healer of bodies, minds, and spirits. Holy Spirit, comforter of hearts, heal your people's wounds and transform brokenness into wholeness. Pour your spirit of peace into the hearts of friends and families of crime victims, so that they may recover a sense of your presence in their lives. We pray for our police officers and county sheriffs today, that they would know that you are with them every day as they work in our community. Bless them and give them the victory in the situations they face ahead of them, and keep them safe in times of trouble. Help us, Lord, to identify for ourselves those sources of life and a light that cannot be shaken by any injustice. May we find in you, Lord, unshakable place to stand and the courage to build and live lives of courage and conviction. May the living presence of Christ be with you, the life-giving power of God sustain you, and the perfect light of Holy Spirit shine within you now and evermore. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Moon. I'd like to invite the speakers and victims who have joined us today to come join us at the front of the monument for the dove release that will conclude our ceremony. So please come forward, join us here. Thank you all for being here. God bless.